So recently, I started watching this YouTube series. You maybe have seen this. It's this guy, he's an atheist and he visits churches. And it's literally called Atheist Goes to Church. I don't endorse, because I don't know anything about this. I saw one episode. So this is not an endorsement. This is a review of the one episode I saw, I guess. But it made me start thinking. This guy is, based on what I saw in this episode, I guess has deconstructed some of his faith. He mentioned having a couple of theology degrees, and he mentioned being a Christian, like growing up as a Christian, I guess. And now he's not. And to his credit, he's not in any of these videos. He doesn't try to like argue Christianity or like dismantle it, or he's not aggressive in anything. He literally is just going and visiting different churches. And in the one that I saw, he went to like a satellite campus for a really big mega church. And, but the satellite campus is, I guess they have their own worship team. And so you have the main campus, and then you have the satellite campus, and the satellite campus has their own worship team, has their own like campus pastor. But then after worship, they, basically like live stream the sermon from the pastor of all of the campuses, like the head pastor. And he preaches on a video screen. So the sermon is not unique to that specific location. It's all of their locations that are happening at the same time. And he commented about how this was like he was quite complimentary. He talked about how it was a well-oiled machine, and just the amount of work and production. And he commented on the value of all of these things, like how high value it was. So he did pick apart one thing. He had this one complaint. And as he kept going, giving this review, and he's like, I just have this one complaint, but then he would like talk about other things. I just have this, and he kept mentioning this one complaint, but he wouldn't say what it was. So I'm watching it and I'm like, he is like, got to be complaining about the fact that this is taking place in a gym, right? Because it's a satellite campus. And if you're going to church and you're an atheist, maybe that's like an off-putting thing. And he actually was like, no, that was really cool. It was cool that they had a space, and that how they transformed this space to be like a church. And I was like, okay, so then it's going to be what you hear a lot of times. The worship is like a rock concert and it's not like a real thing. Okay, that's fine. It wasn't that. That wasn't his complaint. And then I was like, maybe it's they're one of those churches. And if this is your church, more power to you. I just always find it a little bit comical. But those churches where the greeters have like signs and they're like, you can sit with me, or you look great today, stuff like that. And I get it, conversation starters or whatever. But I think about that and I'm like, how many people that are holding the you can sit with me sign also serve so much that they never actually get to sit down at church? That's what makes me laugh. Because I think about our greeters and they're just constantly busy at our church. So anyway, that's not beside the point. He didn't care about any of that. None of that was his issue. His issue was with the pastor who was broadcast in. And it wasn't even the fact that he was being broadcast in that he had an issue with. The concern was that this pastor is a very charismatic personality and a very charismatic speaker. And I thought, so a lot of great communicators are charismatic people. And I just thought, what a weird thing to be bothered by, in my opinion. But it was problematic for him. And I do get the point. He fleshed the point out, and he talks about how there's this, if a ministry or something is built on like one person, how dangerous that can be. And he talked about the like different cult leaders and things, and like drinking the Kool-Aid, and how like things that are built around one man can be problematic. And I don't discredit that. But here's the thing. I think that I submit this to you for your consideration. I think all things have the propensity to either be used for the glory of God or used for the perversion of the gospel. If scripture is right and we are engaged all the time in warfare, there is a heaven and there is a hell, there is a God and there is a Satan, there are angels and there are demons, there's good and there's evil. There's sin and there's righteousness. If it's two sides, then everything has the propensity to be used for the glory of God or for the perversion of the gospel. And when we think about it in this context, so this preacher is charismatic. Wasn't Jesus charismatic? Because do crowds follow somebody who's awkward? You know, like, I mean, wouldn't he have been a charismatic speaker as well? So is this necessarily wrong? Now, is it what we should strive for? Well, we should strive to be all that God has made us to be. But if this is the way he's wired you and he has given you a gift to be this way, then use it for the glory of God as opposed to for something else, you know? And so I think about it like when we think of other charismatic leaders, yeah, sure, there are cult leaders. There are things that have happened that are definitely the perversion of the gospel and have happened at the hand of a very charismatic leader. But charisma in and of itself cannot be a bad thing because everything can be used for the glory of God or for the perversion of the gospel. I think about Esther. And Esther was beautiful. Scripture is very clear. Not only was she beautiful, but she also went through all of these beauty rituals for like 12 months, goes through all of these beauty rituals. And all of this was to get her positioned in the palace for such a time as this, says Scripture, so that she could be out of, she went through all these beauty treatments and everything, but still out of all of the women in the harem of the king, she is the one chosen to be the queen. The one. There's a whole lot of them. And they're all going through the same beauty rituals. And then somehow we've twisted this that beauty becomes an idea of vanity and it's not good to be considered beautiful or attractive. Like the world, that's what the world values, and we shouldn't value that in the kingdom. And all I'm saying is that we should be all of everything that God created us to be. If he made us attractive, be attractive. It worked for Esther. Now, be careful what you show in your attractiveness. Be modest and honor the Lord in all things. But beauty inherently is not bad. It's created by God. Beauty is beautiful. Charisma is not bad inherently. It's to be used for the glory of God. These things, it's not so much what we do. It's not so much what we have, but what we do with what we have, right? Everything can be used for the glory of God or for the perversion of the gospel. And one more thing, it's the oldest trick in the book. The very first thing that Satan did as the serpent in the garden was try to convince Eve that God was holding out on her, that God was not good, that he was withholding, and good gods don't withhold. He took what God had created and he said, if you eat this apple, God knows that, or apple, what's what we call it, but the fruit, if you eat the fruit, then God knows that you'll be like him. Your eyes will be open and you will be like God. So he convinced her that she needed to do something to become that which was already woven into her very creation. She was made in the image of God. Perverted what God had given her and caused her to believe something else. It's the oldest trick in the book. So whatever your gift is, whatever your ability is, whatever your talent is, do not despise it in the name of holiness. Embrace it. Use it for the glory of God, because everything can be used for the glory of God or for the perversion of the gospel. So let your talents, your skills, your appearance, the way you care for yourself, the way you care for your body, the way you clothe your body, every bit of it, let it be used for the glory of God for such a time as this.